I'm Pastor Jerry, executive pastor at Connect Church, if you guys don't know me. And I'm going to facilitate kind of our time this evening. And so I'm going to walk us through, give us a little bit of orientation, and then we'll dive into the content for our evening. And we're going to ask people as we go throughout the event tonight to try to keep yourselves muted so that the panelists have kind of uninterrupted ability to be able to share with us. But so the vision for this event, I don't know where the idea originated from. Might have been John. It might have been me. I don't know. But we're just looking at it going, the whole COVID thing has created a season of disruption. Daily life, habits, finances, relationships, just everything got disrupted. And in the business world, there's a lot of endings. So you end up experiencing loss of stuff, negative changes, frustrations. But then there's also opportunities where a lot of innovation happens, a lot of change happens, and some kind of new initiatives that can come out. So John and I were talking about some of this, and we're thinking it would be really great just to kind of have some dialogue around this with a lot of the business owners, small business owners in the Connect community. So hence this evening in this conversation. So we're really trying to kind of have some dialogue around the question of how do we navigate this season of disruption as small business leaders and even as Christians who are leading our employees and leading our businesses in the marketplace. What's this mean for us as believers and as leaders? So that's kind of the genesis for this evening. We have some questions that I prepared for the panelists. So I'm going to kind of walk through giving the panelists questions and letting them kind of just speak to some of those subject areas. And we'll do that for probably the first half of the call. And then the second half will be question and answer. So what I'd like you to do is use the chat feature on the Zoom call to be able to do a couple things. One is type your questions. If you have questions come to mind as we're dialoguing, type your questions in at any time throughout the evening. I'm going to try to basically take questions that you guys ask off the chat, and that'll form the subject for the last half of our call. And then I would say here in the front end, it will be kind of cool if you could introduce yourself to each other through the chat. So, and again, if you're just kind of joining us here, we're trying to make sure that we, for the most part, keep ourselves muted kind of throughout the evening so that we can hear the speakers clearly. So, so with all that, let me open in prayer, and then I'm going to start throwing some questions at our panelists, and I had them introduce themselves first, but let me open in prayer. So Holy Spirit, we're grateful for the chance to get together, and we just invite you, Holy Spirit, to give us wisdom. Give us wisdom, Father, into the businesses you've given us to steward tonight. Even as we're having this conversation, would you give us questions to ask? Would you give us insights? Would you give us revelation that'll help our businesses thrive in this season and help our employees and their families thrive? And so we just ask for just kind of the anointing of your Spirit in that, that you would guide the panelists and speak through them to us, and that we would have some really good takeaways here that we can not only build our business but also build your kingdom. Amen.
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 So we have three panelists, and John Dudley, who many of you know, of course. How can you not know John if you come to Connect? But owner of United Home Experts and a partner at Barksdale Capital. And owner also of Divine Stoneworks, and Jack McCarthy, who many of you might know as well, is the CEO of Willow River Senior Living. And Lillian is joining us. So Lillian is not necessarily part of our Connect family, but she and John know each other really well because they're in the same C12 group, which is a group of Christian business CEOs that get together and kind of support each other and coach each other throughout the year. So John kind of pulled Lillian into this. So you could, so be nice to her. But with that, that's all I'm going to say about them. And I'm just going to ask them to, hey, why don't you guys just kind of just give a brief introduction about yourself, fill in the blanks, and let people know kind of who they are. Assume they don't know you.
Jack, you up?
Okay, I'm on. Hey, good evening, everybody. So yeah, my name is Jack McCarthy. As Pastor Jerry said, I'm the CEO of a little company called Willow River Senior Living. So I've got about 25 years of experience in various levels of senior housing. So that right now, that's what I'm doing. We're owner operators of 6 properties. They're all memory care communities. And there are 2 in Texas, 3 in the Atlanta market, and there's 1 in southeastern Florida. Just a little more on the personal side. Married 34 years, 3 sons. One some of you Connect folks may know, Ian McCarthy is our youngest son. The C News star. So anyway, that's me. Nice to meet you all.
Lillian, here we go.
Sure. My name is Lillian Radke. First of all, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm honored with the invitation. Like Pastor Jerry said, I'm the owner of Unique Pro. We provide commercial cleaning services throughout New England and now Florida. We have about 240 employees. We started, every time I say 240 employees, I see some people take a big breath. And yes, we started, my husband started in 2006. And it was only in 2010 that we decided to grow and make a corporation. The last 3 years, we have been growing about 30 to 40%. I'm married for 15 years, and I have 2 kids, 6 and 8-year-old.
That's awesome. I'm excited with both of you guys. I'll just say real quick, I definitely look up to Jack and Lillian both, so I'm gonna like get little questions for them later myself too. What Lillian didn't mention is she's also 6'1" and played volleyball at University of Arkansas. Is that where it was? So she stands out in a crowd, being Brazilian-American, blonde, at 6'1". And I'm John Dudley. I think some of you guys know me from United Home Experts, as you heard, like exterior remodeler and a stone business, countertop business, and a bunch of real estate and stuff like that over the years. So I have a lot of fun. I also play guitar for Connect, so I really enjoy that, and that helps me have something completely unrelated to take my mind off of things occasionally. So that's it. We're all caught up, right?
That's great. Thank you, guys. I'm going to start off the first question. So what is the most significant thing that you've learned about yourself or your leadership? This is like more of the personal question. What have you learned about yourself or your leadership leading through this COVID experience?
Okay, I'll start. Let's see. I would say that you don't really know sometimes how you're going to react until you're really tested. And of course, we're all being tested right now in ways that we never have before, and hopefully never will again. So it's just I think just been an interesting way to see, whether you can sort of maintain what I've been able to do is maintain my calm sort of leadership approach. I stay calm, I stay steady. I'm a calm person anyway. I always joke that I don't worry enough about things. I should worry more than I do. But I've been able to keep that calm, steady demeanor throughout, the process, and kept people focused on some specific goals. We're still open, we're still working. We're obviously being in the senior housing industry. We've got about 250 memory care residents in our communities, and praise God, we are virus free to this day. So we're very proud of that. So I think that's been it. I just learned that as sort of scary as this can be, it really hasn't shaken me. That's cool.
Lily, you want to go?
Sure. For me, I think that was the moment that I could act in what I always preached, right? For example, in our company, we have what we call cleaners, right? Our frontline people. And every time we have a new employee, we stress over how much we care about them. And usually people that worked for other company felt never heard, that people never care. And we say different, like we say that we care them. And now it was a time for me to show them what we always keep talking about. Because usually I like to be a leader that the people can watch what I'm doing, not just do what I say. And I took opportunity to act on this and really do things that we can really care and demonstrate what we have been saying all these years.
That's great. I was thinking I got some similar stuff like you guys, but in a lot of my reflecting, which I've been doing a lot of, and I think you guys are probably the same way, one of the big reflections for me was God's given me a grittiness and a scrappiness. And actually, I feel like I thrive in wartime. And I would call that kind of periods of high conflict, high change. Had it pointed out to me too. I was shooting out in CLA, like this little video. One of my favorite YouTubers was talking about that. Sometimes God will reveal something to you that until somebody else says it or describes it, you're like, that, yeah, that. So that was one thing. Another one was I have to be careful not to let myself get fired up and angry at government and people that get afraid and won't listen to reason or rational thought. They think so differently than me. I want to like pounce and like, you don't understand. There's nothing to be afraid of, like that kind of stuff. But and realize everybody's kind of processing this differently. And I want everyone to get on the attack and go on offense, but not everybody's there yet. So that was the kind of thing I initially had to kind of adjust, I would say. Another thing I really, this is big for me. I think a lot of the entrepreneur types will appreciate this, but I really don't like being told what to do or the thought of someone trying to control me. I don't know. I just imagine you guys like, some of you guys thinking about this right now, but, and that's exactly what's happening in many ways. And also I have to be open and available to God as He's revealing things to me and giving me opportunities. I call it like the transfer of wealth. A lot of you guys have heard about some of the prophecy and some of the scripture around the transfer of wealth to the holy. And I was, early on, like first couple of weeks of all this rapid change, I feel like I like clamped down and I wanted to put my action plan together. And then it hit me. It was like, if God was trying to drop something in my lap right now, I'm not even sure I'd be paying attention to it. So I had to change it to my like a hands open mentality, where like I would actually be willing and able to receive it. Where initially I felt myself launching into action to take control. And again, the thing for me was like, oh man, I might actually miss what God's trying to give me in all this.
That's cool, John. Appreciate that.
Thanks.
So what do you think is the greatest challenge facing small business owners right now? I mean, you operate small businesses in different fields, but I'm sure there's like common challenges you can think of that, like, yeah, these are some of the top things we're faced with just because we're trying to run a business and not only survive, but thrive.
Mm-hmm. I can jump into that. I think lead when there's so much uncertainty the next week, right? For 3-4 weeks ago, nobody knew what we would do with employees that were sick or employees that said that were sick, but do we send them home or not? And do we pay them in full or not? In my case, for example, if I have a building where there are five people cleaning, and if one of them got sick, what do I do with the other 4? Do I send them home and bring another 5? What does that look like for the business expense? And people wanted answers. They looked at us and we didn't know answers. So when I had my leadership meeting, I stressed over and over and over that communication would be key, and clear communication. Even though the answer is like, we don't know if you're going to get paid or not today, or we don't know when the clients are going to open, but we're here for you. We're going to be telling you every time there's a change, every time when we hear something, different as far as HR. So we dedicated 2 people to be calling all these employees that are at home, not working, just to communicate with them with all the changes and about unemployment, or about now with the PPP, we'll be able to start paying some of those people back. So I feel that communication, even though you don't know what's tomorrow is going to look like, because we always do like annual planning, 3-year planning, and all this bunch of planning. Yep. Now we had to put that on the side because all our planning, right? John is a huge planner. We had to put that on the side, and then create new plans, right? Even new plans for next week. So I think that was my biggest challenge, to communicate and to stay in touch. And rules were changing every day, especially HR rules. If anybody has employees and on HR, you know what I'm talking about. So that has been my biggest challenge. But every week we're creating new ways, innovative ways to communicate And I feel that employees are looking forward to that. They're afraid, right? Am I going to have my job, and am I going to be cut? So I think us demonstrating and communicating was a huge part for me in decision.
That's great. Jack, you want to go?
Yeah, brief, not to double down on what you guys already stated, but for me, to me, it's real simple, this question. It's managing fear. You know, the level of fear that's out there. I mean, I think as a nation, we've done an awesome job of scaring the crap out of everybody. That's kind of where we are right now.
Preach.
You know, in a lot of ways, it's necessary. It's appropriate. You know, what we had to do, including in my business, where we totally locked down. Like, it's 7 weeks now. No one's gone in these buildings except people that have to go in there to take care of the residents. I mean, nothing. Nothing. Even food vendors leave everything out in the parking lot and we bring it in. So we've been very strict, very aggressive. But through all that, you know, I've had a lot of long conversations with people. They're scared. They're just a flat out, it's just in fear. And I found that, you know, for most, especially with my executive directors, the people that run these 6 buildings, I found that with most of them, because everyone's different, everyone processes these things differently, but most of them I've been able to sort of talk through it, or better yet, listen them through it. And the more we talk it through and think things through, you know, they kind of come off the ledge a little bit. But that's been to me the biggest challenge, is just managing fear.
That's good. I was thinking probably one of the biggest areas of challenge is making the best decisions to move forward, considering the circumstance. And I kind of categorized, as I was reflecting on this, I think there's 2 types of disease right now. There's an actual virus, and then there's a virus of the mind. And I think, I don't know, it was Pete Debbie was saying something like this today in today's sermon, but I've been feeling the same thing. Like, there's like a legit thing out there, but then there's this whole other thing that is different, and it manifests as fear, confusion, anger, distress. And, you know, along that same lines, it was kind of like, all right, well, one of our big issues becomes surviving in a business climate that is not really helping those people function. And that includes, you know, madness in government, shutdowns everywhere, disrupting supply chains, consumer sentiment, everything around that. But for me, it kind of helped just to split it into those 2 categories, from like real versus perceived, as far as that goes. So
Yeah, well, so you all have touched on something like communication, fear, the thing going on in the mind. What are some of the practices you've done as a leader to kind of help address some of that? Like, what are the practical things you've done to address emotions with your team, even in your own mind, those kind of things?
I have one really good. I think John has 2. It's called marketplace chaplaincies. Those are chaplain that will come to our company before Coronas. They will come every week to my office, and these are people that are trained to approach your employees and to talk about any topic, and eventually they bring them to Jesus, right? First they take care of their emotional needs, and then they will end up talking about Jesus. So the chaplaincies made sure that they made extra phone calls to each employees. And I know there's a lot of business owner on this call, and I paid $340 for 240 employees, right? The fee, John, it's not that great. It's not that big. And I felt that in this time, I got all the reports of how many phone calls they did and what was the common theme. And I'm so happy that we implemented chaplaincy before all this crisis.
Oh, that's a great point. So she's talking about the actual firm that uses marketplace chaplains. Feel free to reach out to us too if you want a connection to those guys. Yeah, very reasonable cost. They'll reach out, text, email, whatever, just make themselves available. They do a good job, obviously, before all this, building relationship and just being like kind of a safe person that isn't going to come in there and preach to them. Mm-hmm. For anybody that's obviously not of the faith yet, but they did a great job. I was kind of holding off on that for a couple of years, all afraid that like it was going to get all churchy, but it really wasn't. It was they're just friendly people, easy to talk to. They get people talking about their dogs and their kids and their vacations, and then you know, things like this come up, and then all of a sudden, But I'll say something else, like in terms of like the communication side, because I was thinking about maybe in 2 categories, because you made me think this, Lily, when you said the chaplain. Even our chaplain came in with like this mask on one. It looked like it was, and he's talking to people. He thought he was encouraging people, but he was actually like, his wife was like a ER nurse or something. He was basically saying how bad it's getting. And I went out to him like, Al, are we spreading cheer? or are we spreading fear? You know, because he's just so social. Oh, I didn't even think about that. I'm like, you really should talk about how many people are going nuts on the hospitals right now. So eventually he like, you know, figured it out. And then, but the communication piece was, and this was told to me from my teams, where they're like, people just like to hear from you right now. And, you know, because in my mind, I was like, all right, well, they want to hear all the plans we have and how we're going to keep it all together and everything that the company is like, we're okay, we're saving, we're doing this. And some of that's okay, but they really just wanted to hear from like a calm voice, somebody in leadership, that we're alive, everything's moving forward. They just wanted to hear a very basic message. And so I got to do another one of these Monday, but I've been doing little just put my phone up, put it on me. I record for about a minute, just talking about, I might even write a few bullet points down, but really what happened last week, a couple of highlights, what we're looking forward to this week. And then just really simple information. People told me they liked that. I was like, is anybody going to watch this? But I did that because there's a lot of field people that aren't in the office now. And I would say one more quick thing, PGR, on that was, I feel like a lot of people's work helps them have normalcy in their life, and everybody's routines have been kind of shattered. So a lot of people working from home or just making really weird alterations to the way that they have to work. Giving a person meaningful work, just something to work on that's productive, I think is incredibly valuable. So if you can come up with that, I know it's been really helpful for us.
Right.
What you, Jack, did you want anything? I didn't want to.
I think the only thing I found that I've done, it's so simple. It's the simple things that matter to me to make the most difference. What I've done a lot of that I wouldn't normally be doing, part of it I have the time to do some of these things because normally my job is a lot of travel. You know, I'm always out at these communities, working in these markets with people. So I just proactively just call people and say, hey, how you doing? And I've been, you know, of course, in my business where, you know, it's healthcare. So everyone that works there, they're caregivers. So they have a calling to care.
Mm-hmm.
Thank God they do. So just to call and say, just thinking you just call and say, hi, so you doing? It blows them away. They're just so delighted. You know, the CEO, you know, calls them to see how they're doing. So simple, but so powerful.
Awesome.
That's cool. Well, and you know, a lot of the conversation here so far has been focused on our employees and you know, just kind of like serving them. But we also know that like COVID and this experience has significantly not only disrupted our employees' lives, it's disrupted our like the finances of a lot of the stuff that's going on in our business world. So what are the two most important financial questions that a business owner should be asking right now as they're thinking about the context we're in, the disruption of finances, and all the implications of that? I mean, there's a ton of things we should like be thinking about. So I'm trying to narrow it down and go, what are some of the top questions that a business owner should be asking about finances in their business in this season?
I was thinking, I made a list. He said two. Do you want me just to rattle off a few? You want me to do that?
Sure, John. Sure,
right,
John. Go for it.
Come on, guys. All right. So my first question: are we making money? And that relates to like minimum gross margin per week or day to break even, whatever that is. Like I don't want to get too complicated. Some people are real good at this, some people aren't. But it's a good time to know, what does it take on a daily or weekly basis to keep the lights on? My second question was, who can help me think this through? So oftentimes we forget about the who. The who's a real important part right now. How long can we last like this? How much cash do I have? How much credit do I have available? Based on what's coming in for sales, did we make money today or this week? Like these were all just like in my head, all these questions. What changes should I make? What should I do? What are the most important expenses to cut right now? Which expenses should I not cut? And in what order? And then the last one I'll say is, who can help me execute this plan? That's a very important one, I think, for small business owners. We all try to do everything ourselves, and that's a little bit disastrous when we have 8,000 things to do. So that's it for sorry about the two.
You jump to the next question. John answered everything.
No.
I think one thing you mentioned, John, cutting unnecessary costs. When we're too busy, we know that they are there, but we're too busy to handle them. Mm-hmm. And we keep pushing forward. I'll deal with this later. Now we all have those extra time, and we can cut those excuses and really dig deeper into our costs. In the area in our business, we can be more cost effective. Is there any tool that's going to make us be more effective and in a long term give us a better financial bottom line. And employees that are not necessarily in the best seat in getting the best salary, the right salary. There's plenty of time to reflect, analyze, and there's, leadership might be more free time to help you do that. I've been doing some exercising, and I'm getting my leadership and delegating to them to help me accomplish. Like John said, who is going to help you accomplish that? I think now it's a huge opportunity, especially on the financial side. And one thing just to add on the side, there's a lot of help by the government. And I know we see on TV everything about SBA, but there are other help from the city, like the city of Worcester, where my office is located, Worcester County. They are offering other grants and resources for people that got affected by, Corona. So look for the town, and I don't know how good Ashland and your area is, but the PPP is going to be huge for us, and it was a huge help. It's going to be a turning point for our business for us to get out of this. So, and tomorrow they're going to open up again. So this are changing again every week. So there's new resources and new ways that you can get fund, and of course find out who is going to help you do the application and find out what's the right application. Usually it could be your accountant or somebody in your office that are good with that. I'm so glad that I jumped with my accountant, and he was spot on choosing the right application for us. And now we are having a plan together how to be 100% forgivable. So take opportunity to do those plannings and to look for your resources.
I want to jump on one quick thing that you just said right there, because I think the mentality, we could quickly slip into kind of like every man for himself. We're kind of just fighting for our lives here, and I get it. But there's another piece of it, another more productive train of thought in this is that we should be making noise to get help from the government any way that you can, and I think and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean in a good way, like some of the grants and the things that she's talking about. As a group, as a community of small business owners, we are like money generating machines for the government. Like we ultimately, the government, we drive the government. Like all the tax receipts on individuals, but also companies. We create a ton of income for the government. And in terms of like all the taxes, payroll taxes, we pay taxes on top of taxes on top of taxes. And I'm not saying it in a bad way, like don't get me started on that. But
it's too late, John. It's too late.
Too late. But when we need stuff, like you should not feel bad asking for it. You should push the envelope. Tell your town, tell your city, tell the state what you need, and expect that they come and help you with certain things. That makes sense. So just my mentality shift in that sometimes has to be like, well, I don't want to ask, or I feel bad. It's like, no. You are a great bet. You're a great investment for the government to be investing in you, because you generate jobs. You provide jobs that ultimately make everything work. So, sorry, I think Jack was going to say something.
The only thing I would add to that is I agree with all that there's some awesome financial stimulus packages going out there. So I don't know a lot about them. I know we in our business we did apply for the CARES Act, where we get 4.5 months of our salaries covered, which is awesome. But I've also talked to a lot of people too that now the way we're structured in my business is we don't have debt on our properties, right? Just because the way we finance things, there's no debt. But I've talked to a lot of friends who have talked to their bankers, their lenders, about renegotiating terms and maybe going without paying a principal payment for 90 days or something like that. I think, none of our lenders, or even landlords for that matter, want us to go out of business, right? So there's not necessarily in all cases, but in a lot of cases, you can get some forgiveness, some help from your landlord or lender. I'd look into that too.
That's great.
Yeah, no, I'm not a panelist, but one of the things that I would say is I think anytime there's disruption and there's ambiguity and there's uncertainty, cash becomes king. So managing your cash flow and even being able to make cash flow projections, right? I mean, look at going like you could almost relay out for the next 12 weeks, what's my expected beginning cash, ending cash at the end of every week. And like to help you kind of know what your cash situation is going to be like, because that has a huge impact on your ability to operate. You got to have operating capital to keep things moving. So that's where, trimming expenses in certain areas can free up cash. And sometimes it frees up cash for opportunities, not just for surviving. So I just, one of the things I would just say is a lot of what we touched on were really cash management strategies, because in uncertainty, cash becomes very, very helpful.
Yeah.
So, well, how about some of the opportunities? Like, what are some of the opportunities that, like, this isn't all challenges. This isn't all like, chaos and pain. There are sometimes in the midst of this kind of uncertainty, a lot of opportunities are present. How do you know what's an opportunity and what's a distraction? And what are some of the ways in which small business leaders can help discern those things?
You guys got to start first because I have so many. I don't want to hog.
I'm
I really
shocked.
do.
I'm shocked.
We'll start with you, Jack. Why don't you go ahead, Jack?
Give me the question one more time, please.
Like, what are the greatest opportunities that are facing business owners in the midst of this? And how do you know if it's an opportunity or if it's a distraction as a small business leader?
I think I think your people will tell you. I think you can just ask for feedback. I know in my business what I've spent a lot of time doing is, so we've recently purchased these properties. So I was already challenged with trying to build team and trying to build culture. I was already very challenged because we're a decentralized business model. So I'm here in Bellingham, Massachusetts, and I've got people in Texas, Florida, and Georgia that I'm trying to gel together and sort of leverage the team. So I just use this time. We have a Zoom call every day at 4 o'clock, and I'm just focusing on building team with them, trying to have some fun with them during these times, best practice sharing, all kinds of sort of interesting things for them to get to know each other and the way that they've worked together. So one of the biggest challenges we've had is getting PPE, getting supplies. So these 6 executive directors, so one has plenty of hand sanitizer. The other has none. One has plenty of masks. The other has none. So they're like shipping supplies all over the country, supporting each other. Even in healthcare, getting supplies has been incredibly difficult, really frightening how unprepared we were. I'm not sure it was dead on to your question, Jerry, but I think the opportunity that I've seen and I've seized is building culture. And the more that we build that culture, and we're all fighting this crisis together, the more positive feedback I get.
For me,
Awesome.
Let me talk before John takes over. For me, there's 2 different types of opportunities, right? Opportunities with the clients and then opportunities with your employees. With the clients, of course, it is our time now to bring the value of what we do even higher. If you see somebody cleaning before coronavirus, you might just walk by and be okay now. If you see somebody cleaning, you're so thankful and you're watching and you're making sure it's disinfected. And I always told our staff how important they are, but now everybody's watching them. So it is our time to, we are offering different types of services that we always offer, but now it's in our marketing. We're talking about it, which is what we call electrostatic cleaning, disinfecting, which are more profitable projects for us. And of course, everybody's interested about that. So I think finding out what are products and or services that you offer that give you better bottom line and that will give you extra value, and put them in front of you and start offering them. Now for me, it was a great opportunity to bring it forward besides what I do daily, right? I see companies changing so much. Like airline companies are now distributing products instead of people, and the list goes on what companies are changing. I'm looking at the company overall. Is there, now that I have time, what are the areas that we were lacking of that we can actually turn better? So I'll give an example. I always wanted to train better people, and so we are retraining everybody. 140 employees.
That's awesome.
Go ahead.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we created new training package. And we are retrained even from scratch, from core values all the way to hands-on. And they're going to get paid for it. They all have the time, and we have the time. So we're going to do no more than 10. Don't worry, we're not going to group them more than 10. And retrain everybody. And then on the other side, like we touched before, opportunity with our employees. Opportunity, I mentioned earlier, to truly show that we care. Our greatest leader Jesus always took care of their physical needs first, right? And then their other needs. So if there are employees that were home struggling because they are afraid to get out, or they have less resources to buy food, our supervisors, actually, they come up with the idea. They're getting our vans, going to the locations that are offering food, like churches and other organizations, and bringing food direct to our employees' doors. Last Sunday, I got an audio message from an employee saying, "I cannot believe my supervisors at my door bring me food." So what an opportunity to show, right, what we care and to act in what we preach, like I said earlier. So for me, and that idea came from them, from the actual supervisor. So every day I have supervisors dropping food in employees' house.
You guys are awesome. Lillian has so many ideas like this in terms of like caring for employees. So make sure you guys ask her questions later. But I was going to say that brought up one thing for me, which is, again, it's almost, some people almost see this as silly, but we have a care team, and the care team did something where everyone's having problems getting toilet paper right now, which is just ridiculous, right, in its own right. People are hoarding weird stuff, and you pick the week they're hoarding something new, right? And so we found a way to get a big box of it, and so we put out a little, like, almost in a normally this is probably like a bread basket. We literally put them in the kitchen areas of both companies, and Lori put some funny line. It was like I don't know, helping to protect your bottom line or something like that. Something funny, and we would change the funny thing, but we'd stack it with toilet paper. We said take a few rolls if you need them, and then people they grab them so it was just one little small area. So I'm going to rattle off a list. You guys jump on these if there's other. This might jog Lillian and Jack's memories on some of these things in terms of the opportunity side, because I generally I'm wired. I want to shift to opportunity so fast that I love that Lillian points out we need to take care of the needs right now. Like, here's what we're gonna do, or just before we take over the world. All right, so let me rattle off a few. So number one, I think we have a ton of opportunities with current staff being willing to change to survive. You probably heard this saying, what was it, like, never waste a good tragedy or pandemic or whatever. Now's the time. Like, I'm definitely finding people who normally are like have almost no capacity, and they're doing a ton. They're rock stars inside the company, and everybody else too that's still hustling. They don't really want other projects. They don't really want to change, even if it's in that quadrant where it's important, not urgent. They're like, why are we doing that? We're doing pretty good. And right now they're pretty much open to do whatever. Like, hey, what do you want to do? Like, should we change it? Okay. And so we're trying to go after projects, and there's plenty of outside specialists available at a great value for that. And so, one of the projects, for instance, is we're trying to overhaul CRMs, overhaul a lot of the technology that we use. And a lot of the technology vendors are willing to give you like 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, like either half price or free, because they realize they're going to be fighting for the business too. That's one major area. I would call that like the project bucket. The second is regional expansion. So for us to maintain, when we come out of this in the rolling start, which I've heard the words rolling start, which I preferred from cold start. The regional, we want to expand regionally, so we want to even push like our footprint of where the company goes. And again, that goes back to getting our current team members willing to either drive farther or potentially take a relocation and that kind of thing. And normally they would not be open to that, but knowing that everybody's normalcy has kind of gotten rocked, we're finding more people more open to the idea. Service and product line extensions. We're particularly trying to put more emphasis on budget options, as they tended to perform well in 08, 09, 01. So that's like service department type items, smaller ticket items that get people by a couple years before they replace something. That's front and center for us. And then I also put another opportunity with current staff is almost around pivots. Like, if you want something to be done completely differently, like some companies will completely change their model. I don't know if that fits 100% for us, but the pivot was, I want people to think like that. I want them to come into the room with ideas like that. Another category I would say is opportunity. This is another big opportunity to build trust and loyalty of the team members. And I found over the years, friends that survive battle together are bonded, and if you can find a way to make it work, hang on to your best people, that it goes a long way. I'm not telling you to do something if you can't do it, but it's a real positive thing. Like, you know, the people that went through rough times with you, and it really pulled you together. And I felt really close with certain teams that's happened with for me over the years. I would say another big opportunity right now is recruiting, attracting new A players. And that's going to mean something different, I think, for each one of us. But I would not accept any B's or C's right now. Like, it's not necessary. I think everybody, you can demand, if you're going to take some risks and potentially bring somebody on, perhaps even a little sooner than you normally would have. I would challenge you to hold a very high standard of excellence in that, because there are a lot of people looking. I've heard predictions in terms of we could potentially go up into the mid 20% unemployment.
Wow.
And that's even understated in terms of how they measure all this. Like, it's another one of the kind of government funny figures. Like, if you research this, you'll see what I'm talking about. I think they think one of the estimates are from the economists at peak, it will be almost 1/2 of the working population won't receive a wage. Not so some form of subsidy or something else, but
Wow.
a wage at the peak of this. Now that should reverse. That should go back. Where all the models and everyone's hoping as soon as everybody opens up. But that's so are people looking? The ones that want to keep moving are. I mean, I realize the whole, like, some people are making more money laid off than they are on, but there's still plenty of people that want to continue to move forward and find a way to communicate with them so they know how to reach you. Like, we'll even put Indeed ads out there now unpaid, so we don't have to pay for it, collecting names. There's even one we can do for free where they can do like a 5-question interview on the phone, just talking to the computer basically, and it records their voice, which is one of my favorites, because you can tell a lot about a person from what they're saying. I'm going a bunch here if you guys want to jump in, but I got 4 more. You want to keep going?
Go for it, John.
All right. Vendors, I think Jack mentioned this before. Vendors are willing to extend terms and give great deals. Now, this goes a long way. If you were good with your credit, paid your bills, if you were good to them before, they should, and they can and will be good to you now. So ask them for what you need. Ask them for twice what you need. You know, I'm finding ways with things that we need. We're going to potentially continue to move down towards more robotics in our countertop business, and I'm trying to obviously cross train some people where they can deal with some of the CNC stuff. But ultimately, I'm gonna tell the guy. I'm gonna say, hey, look, I'm not asking you to take a discount on this. I realize you got to make money, so I'm not going to even ask for a discount on the price. But here's my terms. I'm going to have them have a situation where I'm laying this out over. I'm nothing for the 6 months. From 6 months, 6 to 12, interest only. From that point forward becomes the regular arrangement, and I think they're going to bite. Banks, finance institutions, they're willing to work with us. So a lot of like you mentioned before, I think PGR mentioned it too. You got to see yourself as a good bet, right? I'd bet on you, right? Like, and in your mind, you're like, you're right. I'm going to pay this back. They're going to make plenty of money off me. My business is going to continue to produce and buy things and generate jobs. And so I think if you see yourself like that, it gives you just a little more boldness when you're going in there asking there for something. Another area, we did a call on this last week with another mastermind group, acquisitions. So this is something I'm trying to get a little more serious about. Other businesses with real estate, machinery, and equipment, finding creative ways to acquire, potentially and fold in or roll ups into other strategies. Some people just want to walk away from these businesses, and I'm like, if they want to give it, potentially get even some type of an earn out or commissions on some of their sales from some of the existing client base. I'm not going to put a lot of cash up front. I'm not going to do that right now because obviously we need cash, but I will give them, they can basically stand almost as a sales rep. And I'll leave you with one last thing in terms of the opportunity side. Realize that those that prep, realize that you're blessed and you're prepared and you're going to take action. There will be reduced competition coming out of this. And sometimes I like that because I feel like, all right, this is going to be this environment where, we're coming out strong, mentally strong. Maybe we're not as financially strong pushing through this, but there's a lot less people that can do that, a lot less competitors for a while. So you have this nice run of time. I'm coming out of 08, 09. We had a nice run. Like, once people ran scared, and we had a nice run before. You don't want to be like, shh, don't tell anyone. We're killing it right now. You should see that at some point. So
that's good. That's good. I'm gonna pivot off this highly practical stuff. Maybe this next question will be practical too. But how has as we're talking about like opportunities, we're talking about challenges, how does being a Christian and applying Christian principles, thinking through the lens of the gospel, how does that affect and impact your response to COVID? Like, are there certain ways you look at it and say, yep, this makes me different because I'm a believer. This is making me different than how I would respond if I wasn't a believer.
Yeah, it starts with like your morning devotional, like John mentioned before. Now than ever before, we are forced to make decisions, right? We talk about a bunch of decisions we're making with employees, suppliers, clients. And I always tell God, like, I am nobody running this company without you. So many times I have so many stories that I do my devotion in the morning and then things happen throughout the day, brings me back. I'm sure all of you have experience like that. Brings me back to a Bible verse that I read in the morning or a story that I read in the morning. So who am I to lead this company throughout this crisis and make tons of decisions that are going to impact my employees' life, my clients, without God's guidance, right? So I think it starts there. And then second is that when, like John mentioned, these employees come to you with their fear in their face. They don't need to say anything, just to show their face. You kind of know. So you kind of have to be the calm voice, like Jack mentioned. He's already calm, but now you need to stay calm. And then for me, that was like an exercise that I had so much on the back of my mind and on my back. I don't know if there's any moms out there, the homeschooling, adding on top of everything we do. So sometimes I'll come to a meeting or to talk to an employee and I was on fire. I have to take that big breath, ask for the Holy Spirit to come before me, and then do the conversation. Because if we are going to be spreading fear or incentivize their fear, then who they're going to look for when they need a calm voice. So we need to be the calm voice. And then my poor husband is the one that I need to throw at him all my feeling anxieties, and then he calms me down and I calm him down.
Poor Silvano.
I'm honest here, and if he was here, he would say that. Some days he'll come to me and say, okay, relax, and then I say, okay. I'm so glad I have my husband on my life because he's the calmer. So for me, I couldn't be going through that if I didn't have so clear connection and so intensive, more intensive now, devotional time, right?
Right.
It's good.
A couple things I'll add that I didn't hear yet. One, I would say, my faith really helps me to be hopeful, right? In a time when you hear and see and meet so much hopelessness out there, I remain more hopeful maybe than almost ever. I just just totally believe that a lot of good things are going to come out of this, not only, for individually as Christians, but as business owners and as a nation. I don't know what that looks like yet, but I'm convinced that something awesome is at work here. And when he's ready, he'll reveal it to us.
That's awesome. A lot, for me, the whole thing was like it was a big test and reminder of what I truly believe. I've had, like a lot of people, I've had some other tragedies over my business career, and it's like those times, like those cold shower moments, right? When you're sitting there and you're like, sometimes I feel like a lot of times we're doing like the right things, and until it hits us that doesn't always make it. Like, so you can do all the right things in your whole life, and it doesn't always work out sometimes, right? And so this was that deep like test of what I truly believe. So for me, it was like about God's protection and provision. Do I really believe he's going to take care of me? Like, because that's the only thing I think that really gets a lot of us through that is like all the planning, all the thinking, all the execution. We can be perfect in that, like in execution, and it still don't work out, right? Like a lot of times people just throw it up to luck. Oh, it's luck. And I'm like, no, like, do you really believe God's going to take care of you? So for me, I was like, yep. It also about whether I believe I'll go to heaven, because I think a lot of people straight up when they think about this pandemic, they literally their fear kicks up of dying. Like they literally think, and I was saying this the whole time. I said people are acting like somebody's out in the streets with a gun looking for them right now, and if they saw him, they'd shoot him the minute they saw him, which was obviously an overreaction to the actual nature of the threat. But am I afraid of that? Like, am I afraid? And I'm like, no, I'm not. So I had faith. I got to face that. And also that I won't give in to fear. That I'm, along the same lines. I'm not afraid to die if it's my time. And then also through this, for me was like having a sound mind is a blessing from God, because that's not a given, for a lot of people. And leading as a Christian should be an act of care, but sometimes caring requires making tough decisions, cuts and pivots. I think sometimes confuse being a Christian with like being nice or being a pushover or not being tough, and that's not the case. I mean, you can just go read the Old Testament or the New Testament. A lot of tough decisions that take place. And so that's when we need God. And the tough decision does not always come off. You won't always be liked. It's not going to come off like, it isn't even going to feel good sometimes. Sometimes we want everybody to be happy with us, and we want everything to feel good. It isn't like that. Life's not like that. So it was just deep, like locking in. What do I truly believe? Do I believe God's in control? Yes. Do I believe this is all God's ultimately? Yes. And He's going to take care of me? Yes. So.
That's good. I appreciate you guys just being able to answer those questions and just to like impart your wisdom to us and your experience. I want to shift now. We want to spend the next 30 minutes or so just doing Q&A. So I have a couple questions I'll start with that I've kind of jotted down as you guys were talking. But I'd love to hear from some of the rest of you on the call. If you have questions that you've thought of, type them in the chat while we're talking here, and I'll be collecting those, and we'll throw them back out to John and Lillian and Jack and kind of see what the reaction is. So this is your time. This is your moment. Fire those questions away. I'll start by asking you guys, I'm just thinking about the intensity of the last couple of weeks and what it's done for like those of us that are trying to lead businesses and lead people. It takes a lot of energy. There's days where I'm like, I am more tired at the end of this day than what I would have been like 3 weeks ago at the end of a day. So what have you done? Have you done anything unique to like manage your emotional energy during this time? Just the energy it takes to navigate through decisions, change, I call it VUCA leadership when things are volatile and uncertain. What have you done to manage your emotional energy? This is a very practical question.
Yeah, I think for me, I would say I've always been, exercise has always been important. Fitness, exercise, health, but I've been far more diligent because, like you said, by the time I get done with my Zoom calls every day, I'm falling asleep on the couch, which I haven't done in years, right? So it's absolutely, mentally exhausting. So I just try to, again, the simple stuff helps the most, I think, but I try to eat right and exercise every morning.
I don't want to make everybody jealous on this phone call, but last year I moved to Florida, and our house now it's next to a lake, and we bought kayak. So going kayak in the lake with no cell phone, I call my de-stress moment. It's right. It's right next to our house. And the second thing is, Buck Jacobs, the founder of the group that John and I participate, he created this journal called The Most Important Hour. It's just an easy tool for you to do your devotionals. And over there, he forces us to write it down every day. What are the things you're thankful for? So just in the middle of this crisis, to keep your mind in things that you're thankful for, it really helped me kind of divert my mind from that. And we're actually implementing that with kids, even our kids, because our kids are struggling, right? Just like we are staying home, not see their friends. So every night we bring our kids to our devotional area, and we ask them, what are you thankful for today? So our entire family now shifts our mind for the good things that we see in this, even throughout the crisis. So those, I agree with Jack, doing some more exercises, trying to keep a routine the best way you can, right? I know it's hard to keep a routine, but for me, keeping a routine, it was huge. I was such a routine person. I always ate on the same hour. Now we have a teacher Zoom meeting on my lunchtime. So like, how do you keep the routine as much as you can?
I noticed myself feeling a lot better. Same thing when we establish new routines. Like I almost think, as you're saying this, it just sounds crazy, but sometimes I like to use verbiage that'll drive stuff home. and for me, I feel like I have to be, I'm okay being a freak with my routine. Like I really don't mind being pretty far out there and how disciplined I am around certain things. And you know what I'm saying? Like, so that's why I use that word. Like, don't be afraid to be a freak with what you do. Like, you don't have to be normal. You know what I'm saying? and another thing that makes me feel good throughout the week, it just helps my mental, is I watch like sitcoms, and we watch them with the boys, watch the Goldbergs and stuff like that. We'll sit down. That's one of the few things, actually, who would have thought that like that's how you can get family time, like that. AFV, America's Funniest Home Videos, you know, I love that. Like just little things, not for that long because I'm too tired tonight, but we'll put them on for usually 2 shows, which with the DVR is like 22 minutes a piece, right? The AFV is a double show, but so sitcoms are a big one, and I'll find little snippets on YouTube that the comedy just makes me laugh. I don't know. I'm trying to find light stuff because I can get so intense into things during the day, and my mind, if I can't unplug early enough from work and move on to like something kind of nonsense like that, or even like, you know, nature based, like I'll find myself, my brain will just continue to try to solve problems, and we're in a situation where we're like, we have these unsolvable, like, you know, conundrums right now. They're going again and again. I wake up, I'm like, nope, didn't solve it, but I'm burnt. And I'm like, all right, do not do that. Do not work past, you know, for me it's about 7:30. I can't work much past that. My brain won't shut off properly. So
That's good. So Andrea asked a question here. I'm gonna maybe make her question a little bit broader, but she's asking what podcasts you're listening to or books you're reading. I'm gonna ask it this way: what resources are you looking to in this season to be able to help you, either like with your own headspace or practically, but where are the resources you guys are turning to?
For me, I've spent a lot of time, you know, talking with friends in the industry, right? So talking with folks that, you know, we're all dealing with the same thing in the senior housing industry. So I spent a lot of time, I found, over the past month or so, just, you know, going back and forth with friends that I've known for years, and sort of comparing notes, how we're dealing with the challenges. You know, a lot of it is, you know, lifting each other up, you know, inspiring each other. And so that's I've spent a lot of time doing that.
Lillian or John?
yeah, I'll go. Okay. I definitely, so I'll go back to like, I don't want to miss a good crisis. I've learned to work in rhythms, like in seasons, and when God's given me seasons where I'm really motivated to like attack a topic or a subject or acquire knowledge or relationship, I want to use that motivation when it's there, because it's not always there, right? And so the first thing that popped in my head was OneNote, as you said that, because I'm cataloging like a giddy student trying to not miss everything that's occurring right now, almost like the economist in me. And I'll find myself categorizing everything that comes at, like, not everything, but a lot of stuff that comes at me from reliable sources, from email, from YouTube, which has 8 million suggestions. You know, some of them are actually okay. A lot of them are garbage, but, you know, some of them are okay. And definitely my business groups, you know, so C12 is my Christian CEO group, and a couple of other masterminds as well. But it's like, and of course books, I'm crushing books right now. But it's, I think the biggest takeaway is not the what, it's the how. Like, because when I get something, it'll lead to like 2 more things, and then I'll catalog it in OneNote, so you can use whatever. And it's like a lead of inspiration for me. And then I'll pounce on it. I almost have to go easy with it, because then I'm like, all right, I gotta play with my kids. It's the weekend. But I want to attack this. I want to, you know what I'm saying? I don't know if you guys balance like passion, like almost like flow type moments.
Yeah, I listen to Joe Maxwell podcast and Craig Rochelle. They quite a few good ones. I don't know if you heard, if you know, I'm sure you guys, Pastor Craig Rochelle, and he was in Germany when all this exploded.
Yeah.
And he had to, you saw that, right? He had to stay quarantine himself and lead the whole church from his bedroom. So that was a good one. And I also like John said, you want to get inspired in this moment. So Simon Sinek is a huge inspirational. He also had quite a few good talks about crisis and Corona and all that.
That's good. That's good. You know, one of the kind of assumptions behind that kind of a question, though, is that you're always learning. So leaders are learners, and so I think in this situation, like John says, it creates certain motivations in us to say, "Oh, I need to learn about this," and so it's like leverage those things to learn and take a deep dive into those areas. because sometimes it's easy to go like, I'm too busy to learn right now. I'm just trying to survive. But yet there are things that get stimulated in us as leaders that we can leverage into high level learning that we won't learn it in the same way when we're not in it. So
Pastor Jerry, just want to add something. I also encourage, and I gave as a to-do to all my leadership and all my management, to use their free time to read and to add skills, right? What a great outcome. We're done with Corona. Now I have better managers, better communicators, better listeners, because they all spend time learning. So on our Monday morning meetings, they have this to do to bring to the meeting things that they learn either through a book or podcast or YouTube or whatever, and share with each other. So not only doing for ourselves, but requiring the people under us to also be adding, because it's very thankful for them to sit down and watch TV in their free time. So
that's good.
And making this a to-do for them was great. We started 2 weeks ago. So
Good.
That's great. So Justin asked a question here, creative ideas and how to keep and engage your employees working remotely. And I'm just thinking that is so practical right now. We have 110 employees, and they're pretty much 105 of us are working remotely for the most part. So, and for most of our team, it's a brand new experience on like staying engaged with their teams and with their colleagues in a remote context. Now, not all businesses are that way and are needing to operate that way, but what ideas do you have when all of a sudden, like, we're in a new environment where we have to engage differently with our employees over remote virtual connections? How do you do that? How do you keep people engaged in that context?
Well, for me, Pastor Jerry, it's been Zoom, right? What you're doing. I mean, it just, it's all day long with various groups and various individuals and on various topics and on various projects. So we've been exclusively on Zoom all day long. That's not real creative, but that's the answer.
Do you give them a task, or do you give them is it a project or like a set time routine meetings, or like what are you doing?
There's set time reoccurring meetings, and there's a different sort of topic or agenda to each one, and in different audience in a lot of cases too.
So you're establishing a rhythm, like a routine rhythm for them.
Very routine.
That's pretty valuable. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I bombed at this, so I can leave that to Lillian.
Yeah, I see the question here. Creative ways to care for employees. We mentioned already quite a few things earlier today, but I think the key for me, we mentioned that we're bringing food to their house and we have chaplaincy calling on them. But when I have 2 employees calling each one of them, because even before Coronas, our employees are so spread out, and we were remotely anyway, because they go from their homes to their work. So sometimes we never saw each other. So we did a lot of through the phone anyway before. But now I think listening to what are your exact needs, because sometimes you might think it's food or money, and they have different needs. They might be struggling in their marriage or struggling with their kids, or So ask the question, what are your needs today? And see if your company have resources to accommodate the need. I had an employee that was having a hard time just scheduling a doctor's appointment, or something like that. And she was so helpful that our secretary helped her to accomplish that, just the small little things. But it might be something they're struggling that day. So I think it's important for us to ask them, what are, in the mix of all of this, what's your true need today?
I thought another one, Jerry. I got one more. I'll jump back in here. I just thought of something. I'm a big believer. I'm an old school kind of thinker and worker, and I'm a big believer in the power of handwritten notes. So what I did recently is I sent just a very simple card with a handwritten note on it to each executive director, just thanking them, applauding them, for their heroic efforts, all of that. And I got some of the most positive feedback from it because they took it and they posted it in the break room. And the fact it was handwritten, it just has a whole different message to it, I think. And I think I try to remember to do that on important occasions, but I think that's just, again, a very little simple thing that can mean a lot to people.
That's awesome.
I just thought of one because in my mind I was thinking of a remote workforce, but then I think when we talk about crews and field, they're all remote, but not like people that are normally in the office. That's what I was thinking. We're trying to make sure people are almost, anytime there's a win, we got to go out of our way to communicate it right now, because there's way less wins. And so for us, it's like a finished project or a happy customer. So people have been taking photos with them, and we'll make sure we blast it out to everybody in the field and the office. Just because, again, it's coming more far and few between. So make a big deal. It's like, you don't have to be super cheesy about it, but you can ask for it too. Hey guys, we're looking for wins. They'll know why you're doing it, but now's a great time as a leader to be the biggest cheerleader in your organization.
That's cool. So I have a very practical kind of finance question. So, like, how do you feel about debt in a climate like this? Would you take on debt to finance an opportunity? Would you draw on a line of credit to stay alive with cash? Like, if you're a small business and trying to navigate through this, if you're short on cash, whether it's staying alive or growing, what would be your thought on how we would manage our way through that?
Oof, that's an easy one. No, I'm just kidding. You like that? You guys are waiting to say. I'll take one little crack at it. The first thing that popped in my head as soon as you said that was, do not let debt cover up a bad business model or prolong decisions you should have made a while ago. Because sometimes we can load up on debt, which is relatively easy to get still. And we have a hole in the boat. Like, you got a ship there, you got a huge hole in the side, you're sinking, and you're like, oh, guess what? Like, we found a bigger bucket to dump water, and then no, but you're still sinking. You know what I'm saying? And you got to be. I feel like we have to be completely honest with ourselves, and a little ruthless on whether what changes need to happen inside your company. And these are tough changes, right? Because sometimes it's people, sometimes it's pricing and costs and things you have to make tough decisions. And that being said. When you're personally, there's different levels of debt, but the more closely linked it is to, like, your family and your kids being ripped out of your house, I think the worse off it is, like, if you didn't pay it. and some people, like, because a lot of people don't like personal debt when it comes to credit cards and cars and stuff like that, but they're okay with a mortgage, and you can even go to the level of, well, if the mortgage is secured by your primary house and you have a non-working spouse and 2 kids, there's a big risk there too, right? But if you can get into the category of, like, non-recourse, meaning, like, the thing that it's being secured by, like a piece of machinery, or the business is signing for it, but then they can't go beyond the business to your person, I think you can be a little more aggressive with that type of debt. So, like, whereas with, like, the whole PPP thing, it's not supposed to be personally guaranteed, right? And I feel like you can be more aggressive with that, but I would still go back to my original thought is, don't bulk up on easy money because and use it as an excuse not to make tough decisions now. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. The help. He's smiling at me.
Yeah. Jack or Lillian, you want to add any thoughts to that, or counter John's argument?
Go ahead, Lillian.
Yeah, counter me.
I would agree to the point, like, strategic debt is different than just accumulating debt. So in the beginning of the year, my husband and I had a goal to actually, be debt free by the end of the year, with car loans and small bank loans that we had. And of course, now things changed, but it changed even for the better, right? Because with the PPP, we'll improve our cash flow too. And so that means we can accomplish this goal. But in the other hand, we're looking to acquire a new business, because it is a good opportunity. But of course, we're praying every day to make sure that that's God's will. And everything makes sense, and the reasons make sense. And there's a lot of things that make sense, the culture and all that. But so to answer your question, depending what kind of debt, right? And depending what kind of industry you are, like, all my clients are going to open up their doors, and they're probably going to need the same cleaning or more, right? I don't know if everybody wants a granite countertop after Christ.
How about quartz?
They probably, stay in their home too long watching Formica and Corian or something else, granite or quartz. Or a lot of home projects, right, after people watching their homes and figuring out what to do. But depending what kind of industry you are, like my industry is more like stable and recession proof. And if you're in an industry that can go up and down, right? I would be extra cautious in accumulating that if you don't know what the future is going to look like.
I don't think I add anything to that, Pastor Jerry. I think that's complete. Nothing to add.
Okay. Well, I have one other question written down here. I'll be really curious to see what John says to this one, but how can I plan when it's such a rapidly changing environment and everything's so fluid?
I'll go last.
Yeah, John, you should go last.
You probably know what I'm going to say.
The approach that I'm taking, with my team is I keep saying, let's get ready. So when things open up for us, because again, right now we're not doing any movements, we're not accepting any residents, but I keep working with my teams on how do we get ready so that when we do open up, we hit the ground running. Right? There's going to be, in my business, there's going to be a significant amount of pent up demand. There's going to be because most assisted living communities around the nation are not moving people in order to protect their existing residents. Because my residents are they're sitting ducks, right? So we're doing everything we can to prepare. We've also learned a lot about how to be better operators at what we do. Like some of the measures that we took, some of the protocols we introduced, I'll keep in place long term, just because it was smart infection control things. We're implementing a lot of systems, a lot of new things that we wanted to do, never had the time for. We're able to do now. Those are a few ideas for you.
What would you say, Lillian? How do you plan in this kind of environment?
Well, I would say plan to the things that you have, not that you have control of, because right now we don't have control of anything, but plan to the things that is going to happen. For example, I know that my clients will open up, right? I don't know when. And I know that everybody's going to freak out if the place is fully disinfected before they touch a machine or they touch a doorknob and all that. So we are being proactively telling our clients everything we're going to do once they have a date that they're going to open up, right? So we're working towards that. Just a PPP loan alone makes you do a lot of planning, right, John? The more I read, the more I realize how complicated the thing is for you to get forgiven. So me and my financial person, we're doing tons of planning to making sure that we're not gonna mess with this and we are gonna get 100% forgiveness. But there's a lot of things between the lines. There's things that they're gonna say on the 30th that might change. So plan to what you have guarantee of, right? I don't know, John, what else you have to add? I'm sure that I'm surrendering more than ever a lot of my plans to God at this time, because He is the only one that knows, and the entire earth is saying that God is the only one that knows. So that's what I'm admiring the most, that for the first time I'm hearing people talking about faith and knowing that they have to trust Him. There's no other way around, right? Trust with your health or your job, your planning. So my husband and I, we're doing so much surrender to God and being honest. Like sometimes being honest conversation, like, God, we don't know. We don't know what to plan for next. We're lost in this area of our business. Give us some clarity or some ideas. And God has all the intentions to help us running our business, because He's the one that gave that to us, right?
That's awesome. I was thinking as soon as you said, we're trusting God. I was thinking we trust God and we want the government to get out of the way. No, just kidding. Don't get me started. I will say there's something therapeutic about planning. And I still did our quarterly offsites in April. Well, it was kind of still on site, but we just tried to go in a separate workspace. And there really was something, every single person at the end commented, both teams, and they were like, this is the first time in several weeks that we've actually talked about something non-COVID and talked about the business and the future. And so if you could somehow get your team, some people don't have teams, it's kind of them, but somebody can probably help you think. There might be somebody, and if it's not somebody else, just another business person, perhaps maybe a couple of small business people that have maybe no employees or employer to just get together and actually start knocking out some things you want to do this year and then start working backwards. There's something that it does for you. And I was talking to you on CLA, this is probably where you thought I was going to go with this PGR. It was kind of like, you can rely, God's obviously going to be the one that pulls all this through, but he's also put a lot in us where we got to get to the point where you can just decide. Sometimes you got to pick a path. I mean, I feel like a lot of times we're talking to some younger people and they're trying to pick a direction in their life. And there's 8 million different things and opportunities and struggles and problems, like basically the same thing kind of that we're going through now in terms of uncertainty. It's different to them, but it probably feels the same way. And half the time you're looking at them like, what do you think God's showing you right now? Like, what is he giving you a few options? Put it on paper and then pick something. Just go, decide, like make a decision, decide to decide, and then keep checking back in with God. You want me to do something differently? Is this the right path? Should I alter this? Should I change this? I think our refusal to decide is a decision. You heard me talk about the other day. We're choosing not to act, and to me, that's deadly. So, and again, you'll be surprised what you can knock out with in particular with some additional help, some other people that aren't just you. Again, it could be your teams, but you'll just start coming up with stuff, and it's productive, and it can be meaningful, and it can be not focused on like just the here and the now and the today.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we got to do that, but the minute you can actually get outside of that, I think some of the joy comes back, some of the ideas, some of the opportunity, and realize, like, from an opportunity standpoint, I think a lot of people forget this in as small business people, but I was looking at the faces on the call trying to see who is here. None of us are like a dominant player that has like 60% market share in our markets. You know what I'm saying? We're all like, I mean, we wouldn't even show up on a map. It'd be like a fraction of a point of like the home improvement industry or something. These are massive industries. So when you come out of this, it would be very easy for God to shift to triple or quadruple your company, right? The business is there. Maybe you're not, we're not ready for it yet, but it's there. The market is there. Even if it's a shrunk market, say the market shrunk in half this year, that's still a ton of business to be shifted towards our companies. So I think we lose sight of that because we can be so finite in our thinking.
That's good.
One last thing, Pastor, during that talk that I thought of, we recently, so again, like most people, we were, for a period of time, we were sort of paralyzed, right? We're all kind of running in neutral, trying to figure things out. And what we just started doing in the past week or two, maybe, is we've set some goals, right? And I've been very clear with people that here's a goal we're going to set. We're going to all work toward achieving that goal. And because of the virus, if we get close to the date of that goal, if we can't do it, if it's not appropriate at that point, we'll push the date. But to me, having some specific dates, for goals to be set, helps me and my team, to keep planning and keep moving things forward.
Okay, that's good. What about very practically? Do you have any specific tools you use when it comes to planning or productivity, that kind of stuff? Do you have any tools that you're a fan of?
John, can you share about EOS? Because I do some and you do fully. I don't know if everybody in the group heard about EOS.
We modified it a little bit too, but so EOS is the Entrepreneurial Operating System, EOS, and people keep hearing the book Traction, and you can go online, check that out. You can probably buy the book yourself. It's got this whole consultant structure around it and implementation and all that stuff, so you can look into that. There's professionals that can do it at all kinds of price ranges, but at a very minimum, you can probably buy the book and just look into what that is. I think online you can sign up, just search EOS online, and you can sign for the free downloads. Their tools, they're of course going to market to you. But what it ultimately does is another one. Scaling up, Vern Harnish, Gazelles was an earlier one, and what the tool is really to try to get your company in some annual, quarterly, and weekly type rhythm. Some rhythm for how you guys look at your numbers and track how you're doing as a company. And then usually before that, it's preceded by some higher level vision casting, where you want to be in 3 years, where you want to be 10 years. That's all challenging stuff to do probably initially without the facilitator, but some people can. Sometimes you would type it as good follow through. So that's one thing. That's EOS. Yeah, EOS, you got it. Yep. Entrepreneurial Operating System. Did I get it, Lilia?
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, so we've reached here. We got about 7 minutes left, and I'm not getting more questions from you guys. So if you have any questions, like throw them out there in the next couple of seconds, and we can have some conversation about it.
Yeah, I do have a question.
So here,
Jerry.
Oh, Rodrigo.
go ahead, Rod.
What's up, guys? Miss you all and love you all.
Ah.
Come on. So
Roger, house is
yeah,
looking great,
I can't type my question, but what would be your bold prediction for, you know, the end of the year? Maybe, you know, first quarter is over. So what did that look like? I know nobody can say what's going to be, but what your gut is telling you.
In what sense? Like for predicting what?
Financially speaking, I mean, with the overall, I mean, we're talking about, it's a business discussion here, like business wise, maybe like for your own business or overall with the market or, you know, the economy, you know, like it's going to get.
Like just like business conditions, maybe business conditions that we're operating in here in our community kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah. For your own business, maybe individually for any, it's, I know it's a gut answer because it's changing.
I love gut answers.
But
yeah.
I love it. What's that?
You don't, John. You like very.
No, but I can talk about this stuff all day long. Like, do you want to give it a shot, Lillian?
Bring it on.
You can start. I pick back on you.
On me, okay. I was trying to see where you were going with that because some people are like the question's so broad. I have a feeling I think I know where you're going with it. Where initially I was like, what is he looking for? An unemployment rate, a stock number, the S&P, what it's going to be at, the Dow. What kind of prediction are we talking here? The interest rates, all that. If you're asking, I think you're asking kind of generically, what's the climate going to be like, right? High level kind of thing. I don't believe that we're going to be in this economy with this little V. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's like, the minute everybody goes back, they're going to, because you have a government that has taken a position and a plan, which I totally get, you basically flatten the curve. That was the whole plan, right? And to do that, you can't really tell everybody it's awesome, it's safe, you can all run around now, right? And so there's a segment, and I think it's still the majority of the population still is very afraid, believes in that plan. And it's up, last poll I saw was like only 30% are kind of like, this is overblown, this shouldn't have gone the way it went, and we want to go back to work and we're going to start protesting, at least the more finite ones. But it's still the bulk of people that are like, basically, I'm afraid, I'm terrified. I have relatives that are like not even anywhere near the at-risk group, and they're just completely petrified. So I know for a fact, I could tell them everything's great now. Look at the stats, look at the numbers. They're not going back anytime soon. Like they're not like mentally and psychologically ready. So what does that mean? They're usually going to wait. Everyone says, oh, they'll be okay once there's some type of a vaccine or a cure or something like that. And I'm like, they might, but the minute they hear something, it's almost like a post-traumatic stress disorder. So I think the more relevant thing that helps think through this is almost like people that are starting to say like things are never going to be the same kind of thing. I mean, eventually I think people forget. We all forget stuff like that. And then we go through another period of everybody's just happy-go-lucky living their lives, and then the next thing comes. But I don't think Q4 will it be as strong as it was Q1? I don't think so. I think it's going to be softer. I think it's going to be a slower go. But the real question, I think, like Rod is like, is there plenty of opportunity? I think there absolutely is. I think we're blessed. God will bring it to us as long as we're doing our part. You know what I'm saying? And we don't need, for us to have our businesses thrive like they were maybe even, you know, in Q1 or Q4 last year. We don't need that much more business. You know what I'm saying? It's not like unattainable. It's not like the market's at a dead crawl. Like it is possible. So I'm hanging my hat on that as opposed to, and I can't count on everything like coming right back. That makes sense. So if I was betting on a percentage basis, I think this quarter's ugly. And the next one's like a soft comeback. I think Q4 it starts to gain steam, but I don't think it's going to be near where it was. I think it's going to take much longer than that.
I know, but I think as you're like looking for individual companies, depending on how your company can adapt to the new, they keep saying the new norm, right? Mm-hmm. One thing that now even people that were afraid of buying online started to buy online because they were forced to. And I got frustrated to see how many big stores had no online selling. And they never put that in place. And then probably now they were frustrated or they are putting things in place, right? Because third, fourth quarter, people are still buying online, and the stores that don't have any online buying are dying right now. So I think companies that are adapting or like we talk about opportunities or creating new ways of doing business are actually gonna survive or do better than companies that are just watching all this happening and not changing or not making any moves.
Great
right?
point.
I like Jack said, he's looking for opportunities because once this is over, he's gonna be busier than before. I am always the optimist in the room, but I like to think that I will be busier. People that never thought about cleaning will start thinking about cleaning, but they want to hire a reliable company that know what they're doing, that demonstrate that they know what they're doing, So that's what I'm working right now. I am readapting our company to the new norm, or means providing information that people are going to be asking for, or showing that we are capable of in seeing you as a client, even though when things open up.
So my answer is going to be a little bit different. This won't necessarily hit, Rod's question dead on, but it might be interesting. So in my business, so we're in 3 states, none of which are Massachusetts, so I'm in this area. So we're in Texas, Georgia, and Florida, like I said earlier. And so, for example, in Texas, they've already started opening up. In fact, tomorrow restaurants open in Texas. Same in Georgia, right? So, we're getting ready to open up as well. We have a soft date set now. So they're very different. So what I can see in Texas and Georgia is we know there are lots of families that are really anxious to place their loved one in someplace safer than where they are today, right? So this pent up demand. So just specifically in my business, and those 2 states in particular, I think we recover very quickly. Florida's different because in Florida, the governor is opening up the state, with a lot of businesses, but that's a state that is mandated to assisted living. You can't move everybody in. So we're still limited from doing that now, but I expect that to change too as the numbers start to get better in those states. Here in New England, it's a little bit more of a hotspot. So I think it's interesting how regionally it can be so different.
I'll add one more thing. Like if you're looking for predictions, I think at least I'm planning accordingly. Is I do think after we get through this, like I'll call it window of opportunity on the staffing side or upgrade side. I think at some points, this will be next year, it's going to be an even more aggressive, difficult labor market. So it's going to be I think when unemployment goes back down, particularly in like the construction space or anywhere labor was very hard to come by, I think it's going to come back even worse because you're literally talking about borders that are shut down right now. And in the immigration process that has stopped, and that feeds a lot of the construction industry. So when that happens, which I would predict at some point next year, it's going to be even more difficult to hire because we had a lot of problems with skilled labor. I think that's a lot of people on this call too. And so how do you capture that? I don't think it means you like sit on people for a year longer than you need them, but oftentimes it means creating relationships, at least giving them the time of day now so that you know who the A players are so you can make a move when you're ready and capture that business.
Cool. Well, hey, it's like 7:32. I'm going to try to wrap this up, but before we all dive off of here, I have 2 thoughts. One is, I just want to kind of throw this out there. If you're obviously you're on the call, you're a small business leader, connect. If you're in a situation where your business is struggling or you're feeling like, I got to make some decisions here, I'm not sure what decisions to make. I would say like reach out to like other people on this call. Like you have people around that you can help you process through that, as Panos alluded to earlier, like having people to help you process through stuff helps get yourself out of your own head. Or reach out to myself. I'd be more than glad to like talk with you through some of that and just kind of be able to I want you guys as business leaders to know that at Connect, you got people that can help you and walk alongside of you if you've got decisions you got to make and you don't have to make them by yourself. So I don't know, that's just be an offer I threw out there for you guys.
That's got some people sending me message privately asking if I am available to talk. I'm just going to put my email out there. Email right now is the best way to contact me. Okay. I'm not on the Connect family, but I can be available for the Connect family.
Thank you, Lillian. That's a very gracious offer. Thank you.
Yeah, same here. Same thing here, Pastor Jerry. If anybody wanted to have a one-on-one talk, feel free, Jerry, to share with anybody my contact information. If somebody wants to, go more one-on-one on something, I'd be happy to help.
PJ, I'll do a plug for CLA. This group, I think, if you're not in Connect Leadership Academy, a lot of the content and topics we hit, I think, are very relevant to business owners and leaders, because you're leaders whether you like it or not. I mean, you kind of accept it at this point. So I know this semester is kind of over. There might be a 4-week add-on session you guys might want to jump on. I think PD's got some heavy hitters. Potentially, Pastor Chris Hodge is going to be on one of those calls. Tuesday nights at 7. Runs about an hour and a half. It's a real cool setup. You probably have to reach out to. You want them to reach out to you, PJ, if they're interested.
Devin. Reach out to Devin.
Okay. Pastor Devin, and then he'll probably get you guys involved in the fall. But I think anybody, if you like this kind of stuff, you probably love that.
So good. Any other? I just want to make sure you guys knew that offer was out there, and I would just encourage you, if you're faced with decisions you're making, whether it's grow or whether it's challenges, don't walk through it alone. That's why we have Family is Connect. So, thank you guys so much for joining us. If you would like to have more conversations like this, let me know. Send me an email or a text or something, or let me know, and we can try to set more conversations like this up, just where we can dialogue together and share information and, kind of have fun. So thank you so much for being part of this, and hopefully it was helpful for you guys. So, and thank you, John and Lillian and Jack, for being able to share with us, and thank you, Jason, for kind of being behind the scenes guy to help make this possible.
Jason.
So, God bless everybody.
Thanks, guys.
God bless everybody.
Thank you.